You are listening to the Estheticians Or More podcast with Brittany Hageman, episode number 204. Happy Monday and welcome back. I am so excited to be back talking with you today. I wanted today to talk about having confidence in yourself and your ability to be a business owner and to be an esthetician and to grow your business. And ironically, this idea has come from conversations I've had with clients recently, as well as binge watching Survivor. I binge watched Survivor seasons in 2020, and I felt like it was time to go back. I haven't watched every season, more the later seasons, because the earlier seasons are people are a lot meaner in them. But I have been noticing a theme with Survivor, which I find to be such an interesting contrast to most of my clients being women, business owners. And that is the young men in Survivor, not as a whole, but the majority of them that are like in their early 20s have a very inflated self-ego and confidence. And yes, they're athletic. Yes, they're, good at throwing things and running fast and strong and things like that. But when they get interviewed by themselves, by the producers, they say things about themselves that the women almost never say about themselves. Like, well, I'm the best. And like, I'm like, the season I'm watching now, like two of the guys are so insufferable. And like, I shine like they say the craziest things, right? I know it's reality TV, but it has me thinking to the contrast that I've had from having conversations with some of my clients over the past few weeks. And that is the feeling, and these clients, a lot of the times that I'm having these conversations with, are making thousands of dollars, like $10,000, almost $20,000. So they're not even like brand new business owners just trying to make a couple $100s. They're estheticians that have a proven track record of being successful. Yet they have imposter syndrome and they are doubting that they can do this and that they can do it consistently and that it's not going to just crumble and fall apart if anything changes in their world. And I just want to normalize this before I continue. Like I have felt this. This is a very common thing, but I do see it much more with women. I'm not saying this doesn't happen with men, that all young men have like an inflated self-ego, but it's a really interesting thing. And I think about like how, if your brain is doing this to yourself, especially if your numbers are good, you're making money, people are coming, that you are picking out parts of your business and using that as evidence against yourself to prove to yourself that you either don't know what you're doing, people are unhappy and are never going to come back, the success that you've had is a fluke, that maybe your business will close. And once, if you've had this type of thinking before in the past, once it gets activated in your brain, it is like a slide. You just go right down real quick. Like there's no stops for your brain, because that neural pathway is so strong, and it's like, oh yeah, like I had 3 cancellations, so-and-so new client didn't whatever, and something else happens, and it's like your brain goes from thinking like, I'm doing really great in my business to like, my business is a failure, I'm going to fail, I'm a fraud, my clients hate me, things like problem. So if you find yourself going from seemingly fine to everything is falling apart and a major problem, I really want you to stop and question yourself. And I want you to look at facts. And I don't want you to look at just the facts that created that spiral slide down. So like let's take an example. Let's say in the last week you got 3 cancellations and you had a new client that didn't buy product and didn't rebook. So you're using those facts as evidence that everything is falling apart, something is wrong, you're not gonna, your business isn't gonna grow, it was a fluke, whatever, all these things, right? Like, and I want you to look at actually what's happening on a consistent basis. And the two ways to do this is you have to be tracking data and you have to pull back and look at the data from a bigger picture, not from a micro daily picture. So what that means is you need to be tracking your sales. I highly recommend, obviously, through your point of sale like processing. If you use credit cards, that can be very, very helpful. If you don't do that, you need to track your sales in a way that you can pull what your sales are quickly. I say this because I love to do this too. I love to be like, I don't have any money, whatever. And then I look at the actual numbers in sales to see what's really happening. So I want you to look at actual sales when this happens. This happened to one of my clients recently, and she was like, this is going to be one of the worst months ever. And then she checked her sales and it was her best month ever by like a lot. But certain things had happened that week that made her feel like her week fell apart. And that meant she wasn't going to make any money. I'm putting that in air quotes, but it totally was not true. It was just how she felt about things that had happened that week. And what can happen is if that feeling that you have about things that happened this week that you didn't love, people canceling, whatever, that can prevent you from hitting your next goal. Whether that means you're selling more product, whether that means you're showing up more on social media, whether that means you're talking more about your business, like whatever you're doing, and this is for my clients, that we're doing to grow your business. It's really hard to show up with that if you believe you're bad at your job, things are failing, people are unhappy, there's a problem. It's really hard to do. I mean, I almost would say it's impossible. It's not impossible, but it's really, really hard. So to stop that from happening, you need to look at the actual facts. Now, if you've been doing like 10 to 11,000 months consistently, and now you have 3 cancellations and you had a new client that didn't rebook and didn't buy product, and it's the end of the month and you go to look at your sales and your sales are like 7,000, that is less than 10 to 11,000 for sure. But I want you to continue to dig into that data. I want you to look. Who has not come in this month? Who hasn't been buying products that needs to? I want you to figure out what is really happening. I don't want you to see that $7,000 when you've been making 10 and make it mean something about you. That people don't like you, that people ghost you, that people don't respect you, that people don't care about you. None of that is helping you and probably not true. People have their own lives. I really want you to understand that a lot of these things that happen is because people are involved in their themselves. They're thinking about themselves and their schedule and their vacations and their children activities and their finals, right? Like they are in their own life. So if they haven't bought a product or come in, it's because of that. And you have to just reconnect with them. That's your job. Your job is to keep the connection going, to stay in their lives. Their job is to do their thing. Their job, your client's job, is not to keep your connection going. That's your job. And being frustrated that they're not keeping the connection going will only hurt you, and it will not change the situation. We really want to pull back and look at what's really happening and look at like, okay, so 3 people canceled. This person had a death in the family. This person has the flu. And this person maybe forgot. Okay, so really only one person kind of canceled, like, without a valid excuse. That happens. Let's look at the client that didn't buy any products and didn't return, a new client. That person was kind of odd, like they were talking about how they only use olive oil as a moisturizer and they're obsessed with their snail mask or some BS like that, and that person's not a client that was probably ever going to be your client. That person was just saying how, they got a gift certificate because it was Mother's Day, or they have graduation coming up and they wanted to have a nice skin for graduation. Yeah, they're not a regular client. And you can give them the best service possible, give them all the connection you can, and it's just not what they're looking for. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you and your service. Where it becomes a problem is if you've seen 12 clients in a week and like 8 of the 12 do not rebook. That's like what's happening. That's a big amount. But a person here, they're not rebooking or buying products, not a problem. It's just how it is, right? And so I want you to really get in the habit of looking critically. And when I say critically, not critically at yourself. Because when you look critically at yourself versus the actual problem, it is super challenging to not take that personally and it to erode away your self-confidence. And if your self-confidence gets eroded away, it's really hard to show up in the way you need to show up to grow the business the way that you want to grow your business. Like if you want to sell more products online or in person, you have to show up and do that. You could have the most beautifully created website that looks, like the best website in the world. But if you aren't telling people to go to that website, by attracting people to that website's just going to sit there. You're not going to get any sales. You're not going to get any bookings. You have to drive that. But in order for you to drive that, you can't take 3 people canceling and 1 person not buying product and rebooking personally. You can't take it as a hit against you as a person or as an esthetician. I have spoken with estheticians in the past where maybe really their problem is their skills. And I will tell them that. Like it seems like you need more experience and maybe it's not the best. You need to work for someone besides you before you own your own business. I will tell someone that. But 99% of the estheticians that I speak to, whether they're in discovery calls, clients of mine, former clients of mine, and when I do free workshops or paid workshops, 99% of the people I speak to, their skills is not the problem. It's the way they view the interactions they have with their clients and what they make it mean about themselves and their ability to earn money and grow their business. That's the problem. So I want you to have a lot of curiosity when these things happen and be curious how you see it. You may be hearing thunder in the background. I live in the South now, and when we have lots of summer thunderstorms this year, like every day, at least once a day, we have a major thunderstorm, which is majestic and cool and a little bit inconvenient. But I want you to really detach yourself from what you want to think and feel about it. Because your brain is telling you this is a fact. People don't like you. You're not good at your job. People don't respect you. People don't care about you, right? Your brain is telling you that this is true. And believing those things does not serve you or your clients. Even if someone doesn't really respect you or like you, believing about that and thinking about that does not help you sell products to the next client that comes in, right? It does not help you go on social media and promote yourself and your products and your business and yourself and talk about yourself. It does the opposite. And just think about these young guys in the Survivor and stuff, and People tell them like on this like show, like, I don't like you. Like they're very unliked. They're not they're not likable people. People are very annoyed by them, like as a whole. But they just don't pay attention to it. Now I get it. Like I don't want to be so unaware of what's happening that I think people are like, yeah, like Brittany's a great esthetician, and then they like hate me. I get that. But I don't think that's what's happening. You have to actually look at what's happening. And expecting it to be any other way, expecting you just have week after week, no cancellations, everyone does the exact same thing, no one's ever frustrated with their skin or whatever, no one's ever, needing to reschedule or, whatever things that clients say and do that are hard and frustrating for you, and maybe you find disrespectful, you find, just really challenging, expecting that to go away is unrealistic. It is not the appropriate way to think about these things. It is causing you a lot of stress and creating these ups and downs in your emotions, like an actual roller coaster where you're feeling really happy, maybe you had good sales and everyone who came in was really great and whatever, and then the next week or whatever, it doesn't go the way you expect it to go and you drop down really fast. And then you're waiting for your clients to pick you right back up again. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to go so high or so low. You can look at it, you can take a step back and look at trends. And when things are trending up, great. But again, we're not personalizing it and thinking, well, I guess it's because I finally figured it out. And now I figured it out and everything's great. Because that's just not a thing. That's just not a thing. And wanting that, those consistent changes in your business to not happen is also it's just so, you're hoping for something that cannot be true. It's like it's like having an expectation to have a perfectly clean house and having 6 people live in it. Like, it's just not going to be perfectly clean all the time. Human beings are there doing things and they make messes, even if they're not trying to. And they're not insulting you by using a cutting board and cutting bread and getting crumbs everywhere. That's like it's not an attack against you if you just cleaned it. And sometimes it does feel that way though, but it's not. And so I want you to, if you find yourself with these ups and downs and you find your confidence getting kicks and hits and you feel yourself feeling like you're an imposter, I really want you to think about what's really happening and versus what your brain is telling you is happening. And this is why a lot of people end up working with me, because they need help figuring this part out. This is the part where they get stuck. They're like, okay, I want to believe this is not about me and I'm not being disrespected or people don't dislike me or whatever, but I'm out. I don't know what to think. Like, these things happen and I can't not think that. And then I spend a lot of time coaching and challenging your thoughts about it in our calls. And it usually takes a few months to really see changes in these kind of beliefs. And that's great. That's normal. Super normal. But if you've been at it for a while and you find yourself in these big highs and these big lows week after week, it's not going to go away on its own. You have to learn how to manage it because it is exhausting. And it takes a lot out of you and it creates burnout and it creates resentment towards your clients. And yeah, it creates doubt in yourself and your abilities, which doesn't help anyone. But I have to tell you, if you focus on your clients, you focus on what they need and what they're asking for, that will help guide you to where you need to focus. But if you're focusing on yourself and the way you feel about feel about posting on social media, the way you feel about selling products, the way you feel about whatever's happening in your business, it's going to be really hard on you. And again, it's natural for your brain to think in that way. And so that's what coaching can be so powerful, because we're challenging those thoughts. And challenging the thought is the first step of coaching, the first step of changing that neural pathway in your brain. And you have to be really open to that, for that neural pathway to change. That is it for today. I hope this was helpful for you, especially if you've been having some highs and lows. And I will talk to you next week. Have a fantastic week. Bye for now.